Hi, everybody. I wanted to give you some information about crisis cold weather shelters. So crisis cold weather shelters are businesses and churches that have received a temporary certificate of occupancy to house people that don't have homes or shelters during very cold weather. So after the weather gets below 32 degrees, the crisis cold weather shelter alliance through CPO, they decide whether or not certain shelters are going to be open. They're not always going to be open if it's below 32 degrees. That's kind of their call. And when it's below 32 degrees, they also analyze how many people they're going to have in the program, and then they'll decide how many shelters are going to be open. Anyway, I have a list on SharePoint that I'm going to show you right now. Let me share my screen with you. So this is our SharePoint website. Go to Fire Employees, and then right before your favorite, the top 40 OA hits, which, by the way, I think that there's 10 left on the top OA 40 hits, and we have well under 200 total buildings left in the city. So thank you on that. That's just a side note. But the Crisis Cold Weather Shelter information is right here. Click on that Crisis Cold Weather Shelter. And here is the PDF document made by my hero right there, Elise. So here is the list of crisis cold weather shelters. These have all been approved by the fire marshals and through BDS for occupancy, and you can see the occupancy loads here. You can see that most of them are in District 1 and 2. Anyway, these are the districts and occupancy loads. Please familiarize yourself with those. This way, whenever you show up to a church in the middle of the night and there's an alarm or some other emergency, you're not surprised when, there's 50 people here in the National Avenue Christian Church at night sleeping. So part of the reason for this video too is to talk a little bit about pre-plans for if there is an emergency for these shelters. So the first thing is, if there's an emergency in one of these shelters, there's always going to be at least 2 volunteers in each shelter. They can, if there's a small number of people, they can arrange for carpooling from one shelter to another. If it's a very big incident where, say, you have 50 people that are in a gym and they all need to be relocated, and say there's something happened to the volunteers where you can't contact someone and it's in the middle of the night and it's the worst case scenario, city utilities is set up and they know that we will call them if something like this will happen. So they will send buses there to help warm them and for transport somewhere. Now, if the worst case scenario happens and all of the crisis cold weather shelters are full or something like this, and we need to find a place for all of these people, that's where a battalion chief will call OEM. So OEM will help us out with the logistics to house these people in different locations, but in almost any circumstance, we'll be able to work it out with the crisis cold weather shelter personnel. In some of those locations, you'll see they're not even approved for very many people, like for the Youth Connect. They're only going to have a maximum of 8 people in there at a time. And in those situations, they'll just carpool those people to a different location. But anyway, I just wanted to give you guys an update on the crisis cold weather shelters and give you a little bit of information about the pre-plan. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask me a question. I'm always anxious to hear your calls and hear your pleasant voices. But that's all I have. We'll see you guys later.